looking ahead to the priorities and challenges that lie ahead. So this conversation is particularly relevant as the Asia-Pacific region navigates profound changes from accelerating digital transformation and evolving global supply chains to climate transition pressures and an increasingly complex geo-economic landscape. So these developments highlight the importance of stronger regional cooperation. Through ASEAN and APEC, the Philippines has the opportunity to help shape policies and promote innovation, resilient supply chains, and more inclusive economic growth while ensuring that businesses, including our micro, small, and medium enterprises, can better participate in regional and global markets. Today, as policymakers, researchers, and business leaders gather both here at DLSU and via Zoom and Facebook, we will examine how the Philippines can strengthen its leadership and foster a more connected, competitive regional economy. We encourage you to join the conversation and be heard online. Just don't forget to use our hashtags, hashtag PIDS, PASCN times DLSU, hashtag ASEAN 2026, and hashtag APEC. We would like to inform everyone that the organizers, through our official photographers, will be taking photos and video recordings throughout today's event. These materials may be used by the organizers and partner institutions for documentation, publication, and promotional purposes across print, digital, and social media platforms. By participating in this event, you acknowledge and consent to the collection and use of these images and recordings for the purposes stated. If you have any concerns regarding this notice, please feel free to approach any member of the organizing team. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. Now, before we officially start the program, may I request those who are with us online to settle down, and those who are with us on site to please rise for the invocation to be led by Ms. Ava Marie Aragones, to be followed immediately by the singing of the national anthem.
Let us remember that we are in the holy presence of God, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we gather today as a community, and we thank you for the privilege of convening through this symposium. As we navigate an increasingly interconnected and turbulent world, we ask for your divine wisdom to guide our discussions. We ask that our discussions, our questions, and our critiques may remain driven by a common goal, which is the pursuit of genuine understanding. Grant us the willingness to listen, to keep our minds open so we can learn from our esteemed panelists and from each other. Grant us the intellectual clarity to deepen our understanding of the diverse perspectives shared today and how it translates to tangible outcomes in Asia Pacific. Let us approach this symposium with curiosity and humility. We offer our research, our discourse, and our shared pursuit of knowledge to your greater glory. St. John Baptist de la Salle, pray for us. Live Jesus in our hearts. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Sa
everyone. You may now take your seat. Okay, so I hope that you are excited as I am. Okay, as we are honored to have distinguished speakers and experts who will share their insights and thoughts on discussions on digital transformation, resilient supply chains, MSME participation in regional value chains, and regional economic integration. I would like to welcome everyone joining us here at the Henry C. Senior Roof Deck, DLSU Manila, and those joining us via Zoom. We are also live on the PIDS and SERPP Facebook pages. So we encourage everyone to actively participate, share your insights, and take full advantage of this day of learning and collaboration. Well, to formally start our program, it is my honor to call on stage the President of De La Salle University for his welcome remarks. Please welcome Brother Bernard S. Oka, FSC. Let us give him a round of applause.
Distinguished officials of the Philippine APEC Study Center Network, colleagues from the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, representatives of PASCN member institutions, partners from government, academia, and the private sector, esteemed guests, fellow LaSallians, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a privilege for De La Salle University to welcome you to this important gathering of Philippine APEC Study Center Network. We are honored to host you at a meaningful moment as PSACN celebrates 3 decades of service to regional policy dialogue, and as the Philippines helps shape ASEAN's economic agenda through its 2026 chairship. DLSU has been a staunch member of PASCN. We take pride in being part of a network that brings together scholarship, public policy, and regional cooperation. Through PASCN, universities and research institutions do not merely observe developments in ASEAN and APEC from a distance. We examine them, debate them, contribute to them, and help translate them into evidence-based policy options. The Philippine chairship comes at a time of both uncertainty and opportunity. Some of you might want to watch the impeachment, but we will not provide that facility today. Trade partners are shifting. Digital technologies, including artificial intelligence, are transforming production, work, education, finance, and public service delivery. Supply chains are being reconfigured. Climate risks are becoming more immediate. Yet, ASEAN remains one of the world's most dynamic regions, young, diverse, entrepreneurial, and deeply connected to the global economy. In this context, the Priority Economic Deliverables, or PIDS, should be understood not simply as a list of sectoral initiatives. They are instruments of regional purpose. They ask a practical question: what must ASEAN deliver now for integration to be meaningful to firms, workers, communities, and future generations? First, the PEDS seek to strengthen trade and investment linkages. For ASEAN, this means making it easier for goods, services, capital, knowledge, and people to move across borders in ways that create value and opportunity. We try to do this in the ASEAN University Network, wherein our students and our faculty can seamlessly move from one university to another in the ASEAN region. But integration must not be pursued for its own sake. It must lead to better jobs, stronger enterprises, more resilient industries, and more reliable pathways for participation in regional and global value chains. Second, The PEDS recognize the urgency of digital transformation. The digital economy is no longer a separate sector. It is becoming the operating system of modern economic life. E-commerce, digital payments, data governance, cybersecurity, digital public infrastructure, and responsible artificial intelligence will increasingly shape how ASEAN competes and cooperates. But digital transformation must be human-centered. It must expand access, narrow divides, protect trust, and equip people with the skills to participate meaningfully in the future economy. Third, the PEDS place micro, small, and medium enterprises at the heart of ASEAN's growth agenda. This is crucial. Across the region, SMEs are sources of livelihood, innovation, and community resilience, yet many remain constrained by limited access, finance, technology, markets, and managerial capacity. A truly inclusive ASEAN must help MSMEs move from survival to scale, from informality to productivity, and from local participation to regional opportunity. Fourth, the PEDS highlights sustainability, innovation, and the responsible use of emerging technologies. This is where ASEAN's future-looking character becomes most visible. Growth in the coming decades cannot be based on outdated assumptions that separate economic expansion from environmental responsibility, or innovation from social inclusion. A progressive ASEAN must be green, adaptive, and resilient. It must invest in sustainable infrastructure, climate-smart industries, renewable energy, creative industries, responsible AI, and future-ready skills. For the Philippines, chairing ASEAN is both an opportunity and a responsibility. It gives our country a platform to help define the regional agenda in ways that reflect national priorities and shared regional aspirations. The success of the PEDS will not be measured only by declarations adopted or meetings convened. It will be measured by whether ASEAN citizens experience integration as a wider opportunity, greater resilience, and shared prosperity. This is where PASCN and institutions like DLSU have a vital role to play. Regional cooperation requires more than diplomacy. It requires research, data, monitoring, evaluation, policy design, and sustained dialogue. It requires independent analysis that can ask the difficult questions. Who benefits from integration? Which sectors are left behind? How digital transformation can reach small firms and marginalized communities? How supply chain resilience can support industrial upgrading? And how sustainability can be made compatible with competitiveness. As a university, DLSU is committed to helping answering these questions. Our Lasallian mission calls us to place knowledge at the service of society. In the ASEAN context, this means contributing research that is rigorous, policy relevant, and anchored in the lived realities of our people. We are not only here for citations for university ranking. We hope our research will really have a transformation of society aspect. It also means preparing students not only becoming professionals, but also to become regional citizens aware of ASEAN, engaged with its challenges, and capable of shaping its future. We do not know what the future will hold for our young, but we challenge our young to create that future. Let this gathering be a reaffirmation of our shared responsibility. The PEDS remind us that the future of ASEAN will not be built by aspirations alone. It will be built through deliverables, through concrete actions, institutional partnerships, measurable progress, and a steady commitment to inclusion. May PASCN continue to serve as one of the country's most important platforms for informed regional engagement. We are honored to be your partner in this coming work for ASEAN and the Asia Pacific. Thank you very much, and may God bless you today.
Thank you very much, Brother President Oka. Okay, so I hope that all of you are ready to hear our discussions. At the moment, we are also joined by about 145 Zoom participants today. So we encourage everyone to share our Facebook Live event in this exciting discussion today. Okay, to guide us through our panel discussion titled Advancing Digital Transformation and Resilient Supply Chains in the Asia Pacific, we are joined by Dr. Julius Relampagos. Please allow me to introduce him briefly. Dr. Julius P. Relampagos is the Dean of the School of Business and Economics at the University of San Carlos. His research focuses on evaluating the economic, environmental, and social impacts of science and technology initiatives, particularly technology transfer projects. So let us give a warm welcome to our moderator, Dr. Julius Relampagos.
Thank you for the generous introduction, Dr. Lawrence. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome you to this panel discussion. I'm Julius Relampagos, and I'm honored to serve you as your moderator for this session. So our panel is titled Advancing Digital Transformation and Resilient Supply Chains in the Asia Pacific. And over the next hour or so, we'll be diving into key perspectives, challenges, and solutions. We're fortunate to be joined by an outstanding set of speakers, each bringing diverse experiences and unique insights that will enrich today's dialogue. There will be 5 speakers, 2 will be joining us online. So I'll be introducing each of them shortly before they speak. So we invite you to listen closely, take notes, and prepare your question for our open forum later in the session. With that, let's begin the panel discussion. So to open our session, we are honored to welcome Mr. Isamu Wakamatsu, Director General of the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia Collaboration Office, and a Senior Research Fellow at the Research Planning Department. Mr. Isamu Wakamatsu is Director General of the Economic Research Institute. He has held senior leadership positions across JETRO's headquarters and international offices, with expertise in ASEAN production networks, foreign direct investment, and global supply chains in East Asia. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Isamu Wakamatsu. How many minutes are the panelists given to present? 7 minutes. All right, so let me just introduce to you all the 5 panelists. So after Mr. Isamu Wakamatsu, we will also be joined online by Mr. Solwin C. Caliso, Jr., researcher at the APEC Policy Support Unit. Mr. Caliso supports initiatives on trade, regional economic integration, and structural reforms at the APEC PSU. Formerly with the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, he specializes in trade and digital economy and is pursuing graduate studies at Nanyang Technological University. Our third speaker, also joining us online, will be Dr. Tereso S. Tuliao Jr., University Fellow and full professor at the School of Economics, De La Salle University. Dr. Tereso Tuliao is a respected economist and former dean. He has authored numerous publications on economics of education, trade in services, migration, and remittances, drawing on studies from DLSU, Stanford University, and Tufts University. Our fourth panelist is Ms. Denise Cheska C. Enriquez, Chief Trade Industry Development Specialist, Department of Trade and Industry, Bureau of International Trade Relations. Ms. Enriquez is a seasoned trade negotiator with over 15 years of experience. She has represented the Philippines in ASEAN and RCEP negotiations and specializes in trade facilitation, digital economy policies, and regional economic cooperation. And our final panelist this afternoon is Mr. Anthony Patrick Chua, Executive Director of ASEAN Business Advisory Council, Philippines. With over 20 years of experience in policy, entrepreneurship, and regional economic cooperation, Mr. Chua advances the Philippine private sector agenda for ASEAN 2026 while championing MSME development and fostering public-private collaboration across Southeast Asia and the Asia Pacific. So are we requesting the panelists to sit in front? Okay, so may I invite the panelists who are present here, who will be presenting in person, to please take the seats in front. And of course, the 2 other panelists will be joining us online. So may I call on to take their seat in front, Mr. Wakamatsu, Ms. Enriquez, and Mr. Chua.
Yes. Sir, ito na lang po yung mic. Yung sa kanya yung wireless po, sir. Acknowledge na lang po, sir.
I already did. Is there going to be a presentation?
Yes, comfortable using a wireless or a port mic, sir? Are you okay with the wireless? It's okay, maybe. Thank you. You can do it.
So slide already? Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Isamu Wakamatsu from ID Jetro. So first of all, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to the Salle University and the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, PIDS, and the Philippine APEC Study Center Network for inviting me to today's symposium. So AREA and ID Jetro have conducted a research project on supply chain resilience in ASEAN from second half of last year through the beginning of this year. So today, I'd like to share some of the key findings from this study. So I should also note that Dr. Francis Quimba of PIDS was a member of our research team and made a significant contribution to these studies. So, next. Can I put? Okay, sorry. Okay, so one distinctive feature of this research project is that it examined what is actually happening in supply chain from the perspective of farms. So studies based on the more than 40 farms interviews and as well as the data from the APEC survey of ASEAN farms and JETRO's survey of Japanese farms. Okay, so let me now turn to the how ASEAN farms are responding. So overall, our findings indicate that farms are operating under increasing pressure from the multiple sources of uncertainty and structural changes, including protectionism, geopolitical risks, and decarbonization-related imperatives and digitalizations. So APEC survey results highlight strong concerns over protectionism and as well as the decarbonization. Here. And also the geopolitical risks. Suppliers diversification has become a widely adopted strategy. However, many firms also noted that components from China to offer attractive advantage in terms of both cost and quality make it difficult to reduce their dependence on China. Market diversification is also providing challenging. Firms pointing out that the entering a new market often require compliance and with different standards and certification requirements. At the same time, there are also positive development. Some firms reported expanding business opportunities as their customers shifted to sourcing from China to countries such as Thailand amid growing US-China tensions. So another important finding is that micro, small, and medium-sized MSME enterprise in particular face resource constraints. So many MSMEs reported difficulties in accessing the information on geopolitical risks and other emerging challenges, leading to a significant information gap between large firms and small business. So digitalization is one of today's symposium topics. So regarding the response of the ASEAN firms, so our research found that the adaptation of ERP, enterprise resource planning systems, has progressed relatively well in countries such as the Philippines and Thailand. However, there appears to be a much wider gap among firms when it comes to more advanced technology such as IoT or AI. And the shortage of skilled human resource and high cost of investment were identified as a common challenges across ASEAN economies. So I think this is the last slide. So many firms are pursuing the geographical diversification of their operations. But however, geographical diversification alone is not sufficient for ASEAN to function as a truly global supply chain hub. Stronger trade facilitation, greater regulatory cooperations, and enhanced institutional harmonization, both within and outside the region, are essential. So in addition, industrial upgrading and strengthening of the local supplier capabilities are critical. So as concrete actionable policy recommendation, we propose a supplier upgrading program, especially for target at the MSMEs, in line with APEC's commitment to inclusive growth. Another important concern is decarbonization. If progress toward decarbonization remains uneven across countries and firms, disparities in participation in supply chains could widen further. So this is why support for MSMEs is particularly important. As another actionable recommendation, we propose a capacity building program for MSMEs in areas such as sustainability reporting and compliance with supply chain standards. Digitalization also remains uneven across the region. Greater efforts are needed in workforce development, incentive for digital adaptation, infrastructure development, including digital platforms. In this context, ASEAN Digital Economy Framework Agreement, or DEFA, will become increasingly important in the years ahead. In particular, it has the potential to lower barriers of MSMEs seeking to participate in the digital economy and the digital business activities. Okay, so this that concludes my presentation, and actually, Elia just released the policy brief. So please check our Elia's website. So if you're interested in more information. So thank you very much for attention.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Wakamatsu. So please hold your questions. We will have an open forum later on after all the 5 speakers have presented. So we will move on to the second panelist. Joining us online is Mr. Solwin Caliso from the APEC Policy Support Unit.
Okay, could we start from the Okay, thank you. All right. So wait, I'm hearing I'm hearing an echo. Sorry. Hello. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sylvan. And on behalf of the APEC Policy Support Unit, I'd like to thank you all for giving us this opportunity to share some of our views about aligning ASEAN 2026 priorities with APEC agendas. And so over the next few minutes, what I'll do is I'll talk more about how we can strengthen alignment between APEC and ASEAN in terms of digital transformation and supply chain resilience. Next slide, please. Okay, so first things first. What's APEC? So APEC, we are a regional forum, and we are comprised of 21 member economies. And our main goal is to promote economic cooperation, trade, investment, as well as shared prosperity. So there are two points I'd like you to find. First is that APEC has a lot of global influence, primarily because we comprise about one third of global population, two-thirds of world real GDP, as well as half of commercial trade. In other words, the issues that are discussed and decided within APEC can have tangible implications within or outside of APEC. Another point I'd like to make is that there's a lot of diversity in APEC. We have a mix of advanced and developing economies, and each of those economies bring with them their own perspectives, circumstances, as well as priorities. Now, if there's something I'd like you to take away from this slide is that with 21 member and a lot of diversity happening, it can be quite difficult to work with each other unless there is a unifying. Next slide, please. Okay, Okay, so one way for us to unify the region is to have a common vision. So back in 2020, economic leaders they developed and endorsed what we now call as the APEC Putrajaya Vision 2040. And in this vision, they identified three economic drivers which serve as the core foundation for APEC in the next 2 decades. But for APEC to be able to work with each other, this vision needs to be operationalized. And there are three broad ways that APEC does this. First is through statements. You might be quite familiar about the leader statements. They come every November in each year. The second is through frameworks. These are more detailed implementation plans that includes collective actions as well as priorities. And then third would be capacity building. So this one would include APEC-funded projects as well as self-funded projects. Okay, so here I'd just like to highlight the current alignment between ASEAN and APEC. So I understand that during the Philippines chairship, there were 5 strategic trusts that has been endorsed, and we've tried to look at some thematic overlaps between the strategic trusts and what APEC initiatives we have right now. And as you can see here, that broadly, we can see that both groups, they share similar regional concerns. Next slide, please. So if we have shared regional concerns, ASEAN and APEC, we have an opportunity to help each other. One way for us to explore would be cooperation on digital trade facilitation. And so in APEC, one guiding framework for this would be the APEC Supply Chain Connectivity Framework Action Plan, or the SCFAP. And in this document, it identified 5 choke points. So these are areas where economies agree. This is something that we share, and this is something we can work together to solve. One of those would be inefficient digitalization. And if you look at the figure here, you would see the average implementation progress of digital trade facilitation measures in 2025. So these measures, they would include e-documents, e-payments, cross-border data flows, among others. And as you can see, APEC and ASEAN, both of them are faring well compared to the world average. But there's still a room for improvement. Is the most relevant. Next slide, please. Okay, but I want to point out here that digital transformation and supply chain resilience is a much broader issue. So here I highlight 3 other areas that we could explore for cooperation. One would be addressing the digital divide. So I know that in recent years, there's a lot more discussions related to AI, but I think that the digital divide is an issue that continues to persist across the region. And in fact, I would argue that the digital divide is something that is more foundational than AI. The second point would be on continuing structural reforms. So think about the ease of doing business, macroeconomic policies, as well as competition. And lastly, one would be promoting inclusion across economies. So think about women empowerment, MSMEs internationalization, or the formalization of the informal economy. So these are areas that are very much tangent to digital transformation and supply chain resilience. Next slide, please. Okay, so with that, I'd just like to offer 4 practical actions that we can consider. So one would be to utilize existing toolkits to implement good practices. So the benefit of being in a regional organization is that we can learn from each other. For instance, if one economy has a problem, maybe that problem is something that another economy has already encountered or even solved. So there is value for us to disseminate those learnings. One way for us to disseminate it is through toolkits. So when you look at the bottom part, this is one toolkit. It was coming from a study that we did in 2023. So it resulted in a toolkit both for businesses and governments to be able to build more resilient supply chains. Another action that we can take is to apply for APEC funding to support capacity building. So I'm happy to share that there's an estimated available project funding of about $14.2 million US. And I would say that there's a lot of expansion here because in the last 5 years, the Philippines has proposed only about 1% of the approved APEC-funded projects. So there's a lot of expansion there that the Philippines can do. Third is to institutionalize more trust-building mechanisms. So when we talk about cooperation, we talk about transparency and platforms for regular dialogue. And when I talk about regular dialogue here, I'm not just talking about institutional coordination, but we can also explore about shared interests. So that could be through establishing, say, communities of practice. And lastly, it's to encourage common ASEAN positions to support topics in the APEC agenda. So the benefit of the Philippines being in both ASEAN and APEC is that it can have the opportunity to elevate common ASEAN positions into a wider platform. And so to discuss it in a wider audience, especially because APEC is a non-binding forum. Okay, so before I end my presentation, I just want to leave you with one final food for thought. So I've been talking about alignment over the last few minutes, but I'd like to highlight here that alignment is a choice. And every choice has trade-offs. And so when every choice has trade-offs, it's important for us to ask, what interests are we prioritizing? So something to think about, and happy to engage more later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calizo, for your presentation. So hopefully you can join us later during the Q&A. So we'll move on to the third panelist. We have Mr. Dr. Tereso Tuliao, who will also be presenting online.
Thank you very much, Dr. Relampagos, for that introduction. I accepted this invitation when I received a letter from the PIDS inviting me to be one of the panelists for this seminar. I have to accept this because we are the host, no? And I don't want to repeat. We have the same discussion as what was discussed by Brother Bernie Oka. So next slide, please. In this area of digitalization, ICT industry plays a crucial role in accelerating economic growth. The digital economy consists of four major components of goods and services produced in the economy. These include digital infrastructure, e-commerce, digital content and media, digital government services. It also includes the provision of customer support services, data analytics, artificial intelligence. The industry's contribution to national output amounts to approximately 10% of the gross domestic product of the Philippines in 2025 and employs 10.4 million workers, or 21.2% of the labor force. This next slide, please. The country's digital sector, which grew by approximately 5.4% compared with its value in 2024. This growth exceeded the country's overall GDP growth of 4.4% recorded in 2025. The dynamism of the ICT industry is driven by the strong demand for its products and services, particularly in ICT business process management. This sector provides and transfers technology and business services such as customer support, software development, and data analytics. The ICT industry also benefits from the rapid expansion of various service industries, including banking, financial services, insurance, media, retail trade, and healthcare, which increasingly rely on digital technologies in their operations. Clearly, ICT products and services have become indispensable across virtually every sector of the Philippine economy. Consequently, a vibrant and efficient ICT industry promotes greater productivity and efficiency in other economic sectors, ultimately contributing to faster economic growth. This dynamism has several implications. First, excuse me, since the sector accounts for 1 out of 10 output produced by the economy and absorbs 1 out of 5 workers in the labor force, a dynamic digital economy implies creation of more income and employment compared to the other sectors of the economy. Second, the Philippine long-standing deficiency in investment in ICT infrastructure may be gradually addressed, hopefully with the growth of the sector, through increased investments in fiber optic networks and other digital hardware. As the country's ICT capabilities continue to expand, the Philippines may steadily narrow its gap with other ASEAN countries in providing information and communication technology services. Third, the expansion of e-commerce enables more Filipinos to enjoy the benefits of digital transactions, particularly through savings in time and lower transaction cost. Moreover, e-commerce supports the growth of both large and small businesses. Fourth, more Filipinos are integrating digital technology into various aspects of their lives. In education, many colleges and universities continue to implement hybrid learning through online instruction. In finance and banking, customers increasingly conduct deposit withdrawals and payments through mobile banking application. In healthcare, physicians continue to provide consultations through telemedicine. Fifth, the continued expansion of ICT infrastructure promotes a more inclusive digital economy by providing residents in remote communities with access to various digital services. Digital inclusion is further strengthened by computer literacy, particularly among the youth, equipping them with the skills needed to participate effectively in digital age. Six, the government increasing use of websites, digital portals, mobile applications, and social media to deliver public services results in faster and more convenient service delivery. More importantly, these digital platforms contribute to greater efficiency, transparency, and accountability in public administration. But there are challenges in the development of the digital economy in the Philippines. The Philippines invests only 0.44% of GDP in ICT infrastructure, considerably lower than the more than 1% of GDP invested by many neighboring countries. Moreover, the archipelagic geography makes it more difficult and costly to connect its thousands of islands, thereby increasing the cost of expanding internet access throughout the country. Thus, despite its substantial contribution to the economy, the ICT industry faces significant challenges that constrain the range and quality of services it provides to other industries. Among the pressing challenges are the country's high internet cost and the inadequacy of digital infrastructure needed to connect rural communities to the digital economy. So what are the policy options then? First is to invest in ICT infrastructure. The high cost and relatively slow speed of internet service largely stem from the inadequate investment in ICT infrastructure, particularly in fiber optic cable networks and 5G technology. The Philippines invests only about 0.44% of GDP in ICT, considerably lower than the more than 1% of GDP in other countries. Thus, the high cost and relatively slow speed of internet service may be addressed through heavy investments in ICT infrastructure, particularly in fiber optic cable networks and 5G technology. 2, enhance the competitiveness of the sector. Many analysts, including the World Bank, attribute the problem to the effective duopoly of Globe Telecom and PLDT in the Philippine telecommunications industry, because these companies are granted legislative franchises by Congress. They operate much like natural monopolies. Their dominant market positions enables them to limit output, maintain high prices, and maximize profit. Moreover, their vertically integrated business structures further strengthen their market power because they own or control multiple stages of production, from fiber optic infrastructure to the delivery of telecommunication services to the consumers. Third, reform the regulatory environment. The requirement for legislative franchises arises because the country's radio frequency spectrum is limited and must be carefully managed as demand for wireless communication continues to grow. This phenomenon, often referred to as spectrum scarcity or spectrum crunch, necessitates the efficient allocation of available frequencies, which are therefore granted only to selected telecommunication companies. This is the principal rationale for requiring franchises. However, spectrum scarcity is not unique in the Philippines. Many other countries face the same challenge. The difference lies in how telecommunication licenses are granted in other countries. In many countries in the region, franchises or operating licenses are issued by specialized regulatory agencies rather than the national legislature. As a result, obtaining authorization to enter the ICT industry is generally easier, leading to greater competition among telecommunications providers. Thus, in my view, the fundamental cause of the weakness of the Philippine ICT industry is the lack of competition resulting from the difficulty of obtaining legislative franchise to enter telecommunications and invest in the ICT infrastructure. So we have to address this infrastructure development as well as the regulatory environment. With that, thank you very much for listening.
Leo, for your insightful and evidence-based presentation. So we will move on to the fourth panelist. May we hear from Ms. Cheska Enriquez from the Department of Trade and Industry.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Relampagos, for the earlier introduction. Let me first thank everyone who got me here today. It's my first time stepping inside the LSU, and I'm very pleased to be here today. Of course, thank you to the De La Salle University family for hosting this event. The ASEAN chairmanship comes only once every 10, previously 10, now 11 years. So having you speak of the priority economic deliverables, especially with such passion, Brother Oka, earlier in your remarks, just I think shows the importance of why this chairship is meaningful not just for the government, but for Filipinos. We'd also like to thank, of course, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies for keeping DTI in your mind every time we have these events, and of course to the Philippine APEC Study Center Network on choosing this topic for this forum. ASEAN and APEC, the Leader Summit, happens every November. And it's typically a competition on which has the longer leader statement. But I think what we've come to realize is our leaders speak of the same things. 7 of the 11 ASEAN member states are part of APEC, and we always champion and carry our priorities in that forum. So it makes sense that the problems and the issues that leaders talk about are very much aligned. So we're happy to be here and to be part of this discussion, especially this July as we are halfway through the Philippines ASEAN chairship. Our work at the DTI started much earlier, back in 2024, and at that time, everybody was telling us it will pass very soon, and here we are, halfway there, and we have not yet completed the priority economic deliverables. Well, this is a very good time to reflect on, what did we plan, what have we achieved, how are the priority economic deliverables coming along. And these past few months have certainly reminded us that we should not have expected smooth sailing. The chairship, the priorities, they don't exist in vacuum. They're a response to what is happening in the world, and given every monthly new announcement, either from the US or from our other dialogue partners, we've come to realize that we chose a very good set of PEDs. They are able to respond to geopolitical developments. They very much support the evolving nature of our supply chains, and they are ensuring that ASEAN is able to adapt to everyday developments. And it is a very good start to ASEAN's Community Vision 2045. 2026 is not just a special year because it is our chairship. It is the first year that ASEAN is implementing the ASEAN Community Vision 2045. And there's a lot of expectation. They say ASEAN is a talk shop. So in this new, under this new vision, what can ASEAN deliver? So our chairship theme makes a lot of sense. Navigating our future together. While we have set priorities for the region to undertake, this is all for our collective benefit as we move forward. Now, this afternoon, I will not be able to discuss all the 19 PEDs because that will be a forum in itself. So let me highlight some of the main interests. I will just ask you to move the slide. Thank you. So the Priority Economic Deliverables, or PEDs, are based on 5 thrusts. We have shortened this to SAIL ASEAN because we are strengthening trade and investment linkages, accelerating digital transformation, integrating ASEAN's MSME development agenda, leveraging the creative economy and innovation, and advancing sustainable and inclusive economies. And these tell a story. Those 5 thrusts do not exist in isolation. We want to boost trade. We want to attract more investment. How do we do that?
we focus on digital transformation. The earlier speakers have already said the digital economy is the fastest growing, contribution to our GDP is ever increasing, and let's be real, it's what Gen Z is used to. That is where you were born. I think most of you here are Gen Z, and that is where you will flourish. But as Brother Oka said earlier, we must make sure it's inclusive. That's why MSME remains a very important aspect of our agenda. Actually, in ASEAN, it's the Philippines who started using the term MSME, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and we had to fight tooth and nail for it. Member states were saying, why do we include micro enterprises? They're too small. They usually service their own communities, but that is what inclusivity is about. And those are the small steps that you need to help entrepreneurs to become bigger. Now, we have the goal of boosting trade and investment. We have the means to do it. We are ensuring it's inclusive. How do we get there? And that's where we want to leverage on the creative economy and innovation. Those are the mechanisms that will support this development. Right now, everybody thinks of creative economy as the gig economy. You know, professionals doing their own thing out there on the internet. But what we've come to realize, it's a very huge market. And sometimes, many times, our professionals, they don't know the value of what they have, their ideas, their intellectual property, and that's what we look to accomplish. Putting a value on the intangible assets and making everyone better appreciate the worth of their output. But of course, all of this has to lay on a foundation that we must maintain sustainable and inclusive economies. This is where all of those concerns on climate, green, at the end of the day, the digital economy will still impact the world we live in. So ensuring that that is taken into consideration in our priorities is a must. So remember, Salle, ASEAN, mabuhay. That's our thrust for the economic pillar. Next slide, please. So as Brother Oka said, we have several PEDs. And it's not a list. It is a set of regional priorities that speak to what will help ASEAN grow. These 19 PEDs were not imagined overnight. And these did not just come from government agencies that are currently championing them. They actually underwent a stakeholder consultation process to ensure that what we have put forward will be usable, is important, and supports ASEAN's long-term agenda. As I said, we're implementing the ASEAN Community Vision 2045. That's still 20 years down the line. So how do we jumpstart meeting those goals? Now, I will just focus on several that are particularly relevant to this discussion and how they came about. And really the most anticipated, the most, I guess, popular PED is PED number 8. It is under Accelerating Digital Transformation, and it is the signing of the ASEAN Digital Economy Framework Agreement, or DEFA. Now, under DEFA, we want to build a more integrated, secure, interoperable, competitive, and inclusive digital economy. So it covers a lot of things. Digital trade, electronic transactions, cross-border data flows, digital payments, cybersecurity, consumer protection, and emerging technologies. A lot of things in about less than, I think, 75 pages of text. But ultimately, what this agreement will do is not something you will feel upon signing the next day. It will be signed on November 14. On November 15, your world will not change completely. Okay? But this lays the foundation of, how can you use your Philippine peso to pay for products and services that you will buy abroad? How can a MSME who will now service clients across ASEAN be able to collect payments? How do we ensure that consumers in the Philippines, when they buy goods or services online, if there's a problem, we are able to resolve that case? So that is what DEFA is about. Other than that, we have an ASEAN Leaders Declaration on AI-powered MSME growth. It starts with a Leaders Declaration, but further down the line, it will develop capacity building, training, programs directly meant for MSMEs to learn how do they use Internet of Things, how do they apply AI, what is the correct AI for their business. So a MSME-focused program will ensure its usability and ensure a successful rollout. Now, I know I am out of time, but if you'll give me a couple more minutes. The next slide goes into what APEC and ASEAN does well and they do together. Now, I think Silwin already mentioned some of these initiatives, but what we'd like to show you is APEC really works as an incubator. They test out new ideas, they look at policies such as the APEC Internet and Digital Economy Roadmap. It spoke about interoperability, boosting infrastructure, ensuring the flow of data, cybersecurity, and a lot of these ideas we are now bringing into DEFA so that member states work to make them actual policies in their countries. So we see here that the Philippines' PEDs, ASEAN's priorities actually support earlier discussions in APEC, and we expect that this will continue in the coming years. Now, I guess I will just close by saying that even though the membership, going to the next slide, please, even if the APEC membership is wider, even if China is the chair of APEC, you will see that our thrust and our theme for both regional groupings are the same. We in the Philippines want ASEAN to navigate our future together. China wants the Asia-Pacific community to prosper together. Different words, but the same message. The challenges before us are increasingly shared, and so must the solutions. So as we continue our ASEAN chairship, as we continue our participation in ASEAN, we hope to build this convergence, not just with APEC. ASEAN is now engaging more other dialogue partners, including CPTPP countries. Since at the end of the day, what we want are solutions adopted across the board, and it is only by working with other countries that we will be able to solve today's problems. Thank you very much. Excited for your questions later.
Thank you, Ms. Enriquez. So yeah, we look forward to hearing more from you during the Q&A. So our final finalist, last but not the least, is Mr. Anthony Patrick Chua from the ASEAN Business Advisory Council.
Thank you, Dr. Lampagos. In the interest of time, please allow me to dispense with pleasantries, but I share the excitement and pleasure of being with you here, and also not my first time in Salle, but every time I enjoy because I work with captains of industry who are products of the LSU. So I will echo some, and if not most, of the previous presentations, but my perspective here coming in is from the private sector. I had the pleasure of being with the APEC Business Advisory Council, working with Dr. Francis, and now my role at the ASEAN Business Advisory Council. So from Cheska's presentation about the priorities of the government, private sector being back as established by ASEAN leaders, had that mandate to provide private sector inputs and perspectives to help governments address and advance economic integration. And so if you note, our theme for 2026 takes off from the governments navigating our future together. The last time we chaired ASEAN in 2017, we had prosperity for all as our theme. We believe it is still an aspiration, and so through navigating our future together, we hope to advance that aspiration of achieving prosperity for all. Next, please. 2006, as mentioned, is a pivotal year for us. It's a make or break, in fact, for Philippines and I would say for our region. This is our 25th anniversary of ASEAN BAC as established by the leaders in 2001, although our first official meeting was held 2003. This is the first year of the implementation of the AEC strategic plan as may be and will be presented, or you'll hear more in the coming years. This is the first of the roadmap towards ASEAN Vision 2045. This is also the first year of the official entry of our youngest brother, Timor-Leste, in the ASEAN. No? And as mentioned and relevant to our topic today, this is, and we are excited and we share the pride for Philippines to finally complete the Digital Economy Framework Agreement. In the previous chairs, they were always hoping that they will complete it during their term. So they would say near completion, almost completion, until Philippines finally did it. And so we're excited. But as excitement comes, what to do next and how? So 2026, as Cheska mentioned, this is an 11-year opportunity. So I don't know where I will be 11 years from now. Will I still be this passionate and as you all are? But just to say, this is a make or break. So the next opportunity we will have is in 11 years' time. So we hope together with you, we take advantage of this opportunity. Next, please. We have a huge potential. ASEAN presents a huge potential, but it's up to us. It's also, we're saying here that there is potential, we've reached more, and we've gone a long way. We have increased the intra-trade fourfolds in the last 2 decades. Intra-trade also accounts for 1/5 of total ASEAN trade. However, we would like to look at it as if we're still halfway there. So, long way to go. But this time, we are not just one. We have one more on board, and we have the backing of 680 million ASEAN people that we have to leverage. As mentioned as well, this is a trying times. So we are looking at this against the backdrop of uncertainty and challenge. Next, please. So how do we do that? The government, the president presents 3 Ps for the government's thrust. That's people, planet, and prosperity. We kind of expand it a bit to have people, planet, platform to focus more on innovation and digital, and productivity to focus on key industries and sectors, which actually reflects what Cheska and our colleagues from government have mentioned. This would include industries on creatives, on semiconductor and electronics, on tourism. The digital platform, sorry, I'll move backwards. The innovation pillar, that's our focus on digital transformation, AI integration, as mentioned, how ASEAN MSMEs will take advantage of the Digital Economy Framework Agreement and technology for that matter. planet, our sustainability pillar, looking at energy security, food security, and circular economy, among others. People as the bedrock of our campaign. We're looking at MSMEs, of course, but the greater participation of youth, women, particularly in the area of human capital development. So those 4 strategic pillars, we have a policy initiative, an event that goes with it, where we would draw those recommendations and where we would present those recommendations, and legacy projects or initiatives. We specifically call it legacy because the intent is we want those projects and initiatives to outlive our chairship. So next, please, just to run with you some of the meetings and events that we want our stakeholders to take advantage with, So we meet 4 times a year, our council. So that would be the 3 ASEAN-backed members from each economy, from each country, appointed by their respective heads of government and respective heads of state. So 3 members per country. The council meets 3-4 times a year to discuss, to present, and to work on those initiatives. For September 18-19, we will have the 3rd meeting, and that will include the joint business councils, and these are the ASEAN plus 1 business council. So you'd have UK ASEAN, EU ASEAN, many dialogue partners. So that would show the importance of this meeting that we will have this coming September, which will coincide with the ASEAN economic ministers when the heads of the trade ministers and economic ministers will be meeting. And from now until November, we have these several thematic events that we will have. Next, please. As I've mentioned, these are initiatives from across the 4 strategic pillars that is led by ASEAN-BAC, and also in partnership with partners. For example, the one on RCEP Business Summit, co-organized with the East Asia Business Council. The ASEAN MSME Development Summit will be spearheaded by DTI, of course. And we have several meetings and events on food security, on creatives. And then by November, this is our flagship event, in line with the ASEAN Leader Summit. This is my last slide. Next, please. So we have, to take advantage of the leaders coming here, we hope to, again, take advantage of that. And by that, we are organizing, together with our partners, dedicated forum and summit on youth, on women, an inclusive growth summit, and our flagship event, the ASEAN Business and Investment Summit, on November 12-13, again in line with this time with the ASEAN Leaders Summit. So what we'll do, we'll organize these meetings and events to bring ASEAN closer to our stakeholders, so that when we talk and ask an ordinary citizen, they will not just say, ASEAN, ako, traffic na naman yan, or ASEAN, holiday siguro yan. So it shouldn't be that narrative, because this time, again, we go back 11 years after to reflect on how much we've gone and how far have we gone with this. So again, we hope to navigate this future, this troubled future, with all of us together, and move inch by inch closer to getting that prosperity, not just for big businesses, not just for governments, but for every sector of society, especially the vulnerable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chua, for ending the panel presentation on a positive note. So thank you to all our distinguished speakers for sharing those valuable perspectives. We have heard crucial insights ranging from trade policies and academic research to government strategies and private sector pathways. So may I invite the three speakers on site to please take their seat in front. And if I may request the Secretariat to flash on the screen to online participants, Dr. Tuliao and Mr. Caliso, if that would be possible. So at this point, to enrich this dialogue, we will now transition to the interactive portion of our session. We'd like to open the floor for panel discussion and questions. If you have any thoughts or inquiries for any of our speakers, please raise your hand for those who are attending on site, and our team will bring a microphone to you. As for our participants on Zoom, please type in your question in the Q&A box, and for those on Facebook, please use the comments section. Kindly include your name and organization, and the Secretariat will forward the questions to me. So do we have any question from the audience on site? Yes, we do. So I believe we have a gentleman raising his hand from the audience. Please introduce yourself and your organization. Thank you.
My name is Rolly Alagde. I'm a proud Lasallian. I graduated here. Well, I would like to diversify in terms of the discussion because a lot of the discussions are technical, economics, prosperity, etc. I'd like to pursue the opening remarks of Brother Oka. And of course, the second speaker, which left us a question. Now, Brother Oka raised the issue of humanizing the digital economy. And the second speaker left us the question, where do your priorities lie? Let me give a context first. At the dawn of the industrial age, Pope Leo XIII issued in 1891 Rerum Novarum, which became the cornerstone of Catholic social teaching on workers' rights, private property, and human dignity. Just lately, at the advent of the digital age, by the way, most of our systems were designed for the mechanical age. And the transition was here. The advent of the digital age, Pope Leo XIV, the same name, first encyclical is Magnificat Humanitas, which establishes the moral compass for AI era, insisting that technology is not a replacement for human dignity. Now, this is supported by studies from organizations like the World Economic Forum and the Harvard University, which indicate that as AI automates routine and technical tasks, interpersonal and cognitive soft skills are becoming the ultimate professional differentiator. That is the question. How do we attain soft skills when our schools or even CHED was actually requiring our universities to give up the soft skills delivering subjects in our institutions? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question, sir. So may I invite any of the panelists who would be interested to give their thoughts on this question? And that includes our online panelists as well. Any brave soul? Would you like to start this, sir?
Thank you, Sir Rolly, for that question. Ganito po pala sa DLSU. Parang UP lang. uh, So of course, I will not be speaking on the part of DTI, as you know, it's not our mandate to discuss the curriculum of our schools. But I think what we have come to realize in the government is, while we have pushed for digital skills development, how to use a computer, how to use applications, how to use AI, at the end of the day, these are all commands that you are typing into a computer. The creativity will still come from the end user. And that's something that we try to incorporate in the programs that we implement. I think Patrick will, of course, support me in confirming that in Go Negosyo, while there are programs that help entrepreneurs use systems, programs, there is still that mentoring aspect. How do you talk to your consumers? How do you reach out to your suppliers? How do you build relationships? That mentoring aspect remains a very integral part. So while there is emphasis on digital skills development, we cannot forget these soft skills, and whether they are taught formally in schools or through after-school programs, club activities, I think it will be the challenge each of our schools will face, because while we are moving towards a digital age, all of these skills remain important. To find jobs, develop networks, and bring your own ideas to life. Thank you.
Just to add to that, and as Go Negosyo was alluded to, I'm also the executive director of the Philippine Center for Entrepreneurship, or Go Negosyo. So, of whom Mr. Joey Concepcion, the chair of ASEAN Back Philippines and the chair of ASEAN Back this year, founded 20 years ago. So it's a personal commitment and passion, which we believe, as mentioned, when you ask entrepreneur or books for that matter, they would say access to capital is the most prevalent, or the biggest concern. But our experience in Go Negosyo, it would show that even if you have the capital, even if you have the market, if you don't have that mindset, that mentoring, it will eventually lead you, nowhere. So what we're doing, even as we host ASEAN right now, so for example, in Cebu, during the ASEAN Leaders Summit, we held the Trabajo at Negosyo at SM in Cebu, so that, again, as mentioned, Filipinos will not look at ASEAN na may mga wangwang, may mga leaders na nagdadaan, road blockages. But there are programs, there are opportunities out there where they can participate. So what we do is that on a Saturday, we provide mentorship to, on average, about 300, 400 mentees. Walk-in, or those who pre-register, to talk one-on-one to established mentors. We tap the local chambers, the owners who would provide mentorship. After that 15, 20-minute one-on-one, we have partners from government, DTI, SB Corp, who would offer their services. At the same time, from the private sector, the likes of GCash, Paymaya, BPI Banco would also present what they can offer. And we will be doing this again in November, while we will have the ASEAN Business and Investment Summit in Luzon, in Visayas, and Mindanao, so that in our own little way, we could make that difference. Again, we cannot speak for the schools, but from the private sector, we are doing what we can in those areas. And so that one we do in a mall, we actually do it again for the longest time. And we are doing it as well in schools. So we call it Youthpreneur. It's a program where we will bring entrepreneurs, established entrepreneurs, to senior high school students in their schools, in their auditorium, talk about that mindset. So a half-day session, then it will be followed by classroom setup for one-on-one where the mentor, where the entrepreneur will speak to a class of 20 or so, again, to speak. So some of these are interventions we hope can provide that opportunity for our entrepreneurs, for our students who are the future MSMEs of our country. Thank you.
Just hold on. While we are on the topic of soft skills to capacitate Filipinos for digital jobs, I would like to actually ask a follow-up question, particularly addressed to Dr. Tuliao. On ensuring digital inclusivity across islands, as everyday life rapidly digitalizes across education, banking, and health, how can policymakers ensure that this shift does not worsen the economic divide for the 21.2% of the workforce reliant on these digital jobs?
Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Relampagos, for that question. Take note, although the ICT industry absorbs 25% of the labor force, it contributes 10%. So basically, the ICT industry is a labor-intensive industry. The only capital-intensive sector of the industry is the infrastructure development. But the rest are labor-intensive because these are applied. E-commerce is labor-intensive, and so forth and so on. So I don't think, there will be a divide, In fact, ICT is very inclusive.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tuliao, for your response. I would like to entertain one question from our Zoom participants.
Can I have a comment on the gentleman's?
Okay, please keep it brief, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll keep it short. Incidentally, I wrote my dissertation on entrepreneurship. So, incidentally, I wrote my dissertation on entrepreneurship. Just one suggestion. Can we stop this Me Too type of entrepreneurship? Pag merong kang tawag dito, nagtayo ng hot pandesal, lahat kayo nagtatayo ng hot pandesal, nagtayo ng tawag dito, litsyong manok, lahat nakalitsong manok, etc. I think we are teaching entrepreneurship wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your thoughts, sir. So let's maintain on the topic of digital transformation. So we have a question here from one of our Zoom participants, Mr. Jefferson Limjuko from the MMDA-SWMO. The national government and the local government units have initiatives on digital transformation. The problem is they have siloed initiatives. Do you have any suggestions to resolve this problem? Is there a national central repository of data for this? I think this question is best addressed to our government speaker this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Jefferson, for first knowing about the existence of programs. I'm not entirely sure which programs you speak of, since the initiatives on digital transformation are wide-ranging. Just to give an example to our colleagues joining, for example, the National ID is actually an initiative that supports digital transformation because how do you get an e-wallet now? How will you be able to register on Shopee, Lazada? How do you confirm your identity? So having a digital ID confirms who you are, where you live, your bank account. So that's one such initiatives. But there are also other digital transformation initiatives like what we implement in the DTI, where we teach entrepreneurs or exporters, how do you apply for permits online? How do you apply for licenses? Where do you pay? How do you pay? At the top of my mind, I don't think there is a national repository for all of these programs, but each national government agency would have a listing on its website. There is a section on Citizens Charter that outlines what each government agency offers to its citizens, and it would have a section on the programs that it implements. Now, if you have a specific question, Mr. Jefferson, I'd be happy to maybe point you in the right direction, but I do welcome this idea of having a national repository. Now that we are moving towards eGov, I hope you have all downloaded the app and are using it. It's a very useful tool, you know, having your IDs in your phone, which sometimes you bring more than your wallet. As the government moves, you know, government services online, I think there will be that bigger conversation on how our initiatives align with each other, and where, you know, how we can ensure that these support programs are accessible to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
Just very quickly, also from the private sector side, the government is looking at proposing the unique business ID number, or UBIN, and precisely the intent is to eventually streamline all information such that a business owner or a business entity will have its unique identification number, regardless if eventually they will have changes in their status, such as mergers or acquisitions. So that is also one way. Plus, in addition, the good thing with digital and technology, API would be very helpful. There's this concern and pressure now to have the systems and systems interoperable, so that, as Cheska mentioned, each government agency will has their own system. Now the government is looking at having those systems not necessarily unified, but make it interoperable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chua. Questions are actually pouring in now from our online participants and from our on-site participants, but let's give the other panelists the chance to also to speak up. So if you have questions, particularly for Mr. Wakamatsu. And so I have a question for Mr. Wakamatsu. In your presentation, your data shows that protectionism and strict decarbonization policies are currently weighing heavier on ASEAN firms than direct geopolitical confrontation. How should regional supply chains adapt to these shifting regulatory pressures?
Okay, so thank you for questioning. And so our joint research with area highlights the key lesson. So true resilience requires not only physical diversification, but also strong industrial base supported by an enabling business environment. So in other words, resilience and competitiveness go hand in hand. So firms that improve productivities, upgrade technologies, and strengthen local supplier network and investment in human capital are better positioned to cope with both rising protectionism and increasing stringent decarbonization requirements. So rather than viewing these regulatory change purely as a risk, but ASEAN should use them as an opportunity to enhance its long-term competitiveness and move up the global value chain.
Thank you, Mr. Wakamatsu. Is there any follow-up question for Mr. Wakamatsu? For Mr. Wakamatsu? No. All right, so I'm going to entertain another question from our online participant. And this question can be addressed to Mr. Calizo and also to Mr. Chua. So, and this question comes from Ms. Jean Carlos of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies. Is there an existing mechanism in the Philippines to identify and align the convergence between ASEAN and APEC priorities? As we've heard today, many of the goals, policy areas, and thematic priorities overlap. However, government representatives assigned to ASEAN and APEC processes are often from different agencies or offices, which can result in siloed implementation. So first, let's hear from Mr. Calizo and then from Mr. Patrick Chua.
Thank you. Thank you. So there isn't any formal mechanism to look at the convergence between ASEAN and APEC. But informally, of course, there are discussions. I understand that the ASEAN members who are in APEC, they regularly meet in the sidelines during meetings. So there are some cross-pollination between what's happening in ASEAN and APEC. And on that note, I do like the idea that Jean has proposed. There is value in looking at the alignment between ASEAN and APEC more formally. And on that, I'd like to offer an analytical framework. So we could look at alignment like a Venn diagram. So on the one hand, when both ASEAN and APEC have shared concerns, these are what we could say are the low-hanging fruits. So the idea here is we utilize each other's resources that are available. I mentioned earlier, there are toolkits. These can be scaled and used for whatever purpose that we have based on our domestic circumstances. There are also things that only ASEAN or only APEC are discussing for now. For instance, I've noticed that in ASEAN, one of the strategic trusts talked about space cooperation, and this is something that hasn't been discussed yet in APEC. So in these instances, there is value for greater cross-pollination. How? So for instance, to facilitate the transfer of ideas, ASEAN could raise this as a point of interest within discussions in APEC, because anyway, APEC is a non-binding forum. It's the perfect platform to discuss things that are emerging as well. But apart from this, there are also issues that neither APEC nor ASEAN are discussing for now. So in these instances, I would call this as an emerging concern. So for instance, I understand in the UN, they've been talking about water security. In some areas, they've also been talking about quantum technologies. So these are areas that when neither ASEAN or APEC are discussing, other stakeholders can contribute, for instance, to raise awareness. Different think tanks, academia, business groups, and other stakeholders can build momentum so that this can elevate into governments. And then from there, this can be raised into more formal discussions in either fora. Thank you.
To add from the private sector side, when I was with the APEC Business Advisory Council, we do have an established, although it's a loose organization, it meets regularly, what we call the ASEAN Caucus. So the 7 ASEAN members from the APEC Business Advisory Council would have and would regularly meet every time we have our ABAC meeting. So there we would share our priorities such that, for example, when the Philippines would be presenting a priority, the rest of ASEAN would, come in and support. so that, of course, especially when bigger economies in APEC would come in to question, at least from the ASEAN group side, we are already all set. In the last 3 years, this ASEAN caucus has been meeting more formally following, I think it was during the chairship of the US in 2023, where prior to that, the Philippines hosted the ABAC 3 meeting in Cebu. So what we did is to establish that formal, semi-formal coalition where every ABAC meeting, that's APEC back, we would have our ASEAN caucus, so that by the time that the plenary meetings and working group meetings in ABAC will be held, we already know the priorities. Now, for the ASEAN side, we also take note of it because the members of the APEC Business Advisory Council and ASEAN Business Council, Business Advisory Council, mostly are the same. For example, the one for Indonesia, Thailand, and also, if not, it's their supporting organization supports the same Business Advisory Council. That's for the like of Singapore. It's the same Singapore Business Federation who supports their ASEAN back and APEC back. So at least from the private sector, we have that kind of mechanism. And from that cooperation, we are pushing, for example, what Silwin was mentioning, carbon markets, nuclear energy discussion have been the common interest that crossed over the APEC and ASEAN business discussions.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chua. I think we have a question from the audience.
Hi, good afternoon. I am Sabagire. I'm from also UP. For APEC and ASEAN countries to continue advancing digital transformation, what policy, regulatory, and institutional safeguards should be prioritized to protect MSMEs and firms from AI-related harms such as algorithm bias, data privacy breaches, cybersecurity threats, intellectual property risks, and workforce displacement, to ensure that MSMEs remain competitive and able to benefit from AI-driven innovation? Thank you.
Who are you addressing your question to?
I think it's for APEC, Sir Calizo, Sir Chua, and ma'am from DTI. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So I would answer it this way, right? Allow me to frame. So earlier I mentioned that APEC is built in diversity. So there's 21 different members, and so there's 21 different views on these things. And one of those things that has no consensus yet is how we would approach AI. So there has been a lot of discussions on AI over the past few years. And well, there is some areas that has been more or less agreed. For instance, we want to have digital trust. This is something that we want to boost economic growth. So these are things that are shared. But I would say that there is value in having diverse views. And it's, while we're talking about alignment, it's not necessarily need to be everything to be the same, because different economies, they have different perspectives and they have different circles. We cannot find one way solution. One compromise that we could find here is to have shared principles. So there are many instances in APEC where there are non-binding principles. These provide more like a common vision about how we want things to be. And so with this, it preserves some policy space for governments to be able to adapt, and as well as preserve some innovation, because AI, it's still an emerging technology. We don't want to stifle it. we want to see some use cases, but in a controlled and regulated manner, so that it doesn't harm the people who are affected by it.
Kalisa, anyone?
Thank you. I think in the news right now, there are always updates on AI. Will there now be an upcoming crash? Just given, the profitability aspect of AI. Now, AI is a very big issue. And the way ASEAN is looking at it is as a tool that will support ASEAN peoples. But of course, there is this understanding that there will need to be some form of regulation. And the question is, to what extent do you regulate? What do you regulate? Now, ASEAN has not come to an agreement on this. And in typical ASEAN fashion, they started discussing it for a year. What is AI? How is it applied? How is it regulated? What are the AI laws in place for countries that are more advanced in this field? And what ASEAN has come to develop is an AI ethical guideline. So it outlines, basic principles that AI developers should meet, how businesses should apply it. Now, there are elements of these ethical guidelines in the DEFA. Now, admittedly, the agreement will not be able to answer all of the concerns you've raised, workforce protection, AI bias. But what ASEAN has agreed to look at is how AI is being used in e-commerce. So once the DEFA is public, you will see that there will be cooperation among member states on large platforms. Think Shopee, think Lazada. How do we ensure that the algorithm will not bias a specific type of business? How do we ensure MSMEs are able to utilize this space to sell their goods and products? So that's where we are focusing on. In addition, there's also the aspect of intellectual property. How do we protect the ideas of peoples? We are feeding all of these data voluntarily, sometimes not voluntarily, to AI models. So we are looking at it from those two specific perspectives. But again, this is an evolving field, and what I would recommend is continued dialogue among member states on how their different approaches have, what successes they've met, what challenges they faced, and we must supplement that with the experience of business, because they are the ones, of course, driving AI innovation. They are the ones utilizing these AI tools. So it's also just having that conversation with business on what type of government support, what policies must we put in place to ensure that they are not abused. So we're still in that discussion phase, but that's a very useful tool to appreciate the issues and see what the solutions that are available.
Just to quickly add, in terms of continuing dialogue, the Department of ICT will be holding its AI for MSMEs summit in first week of September. We'll provide the details of it, but precisely because our government feels that there's much talk about AI and that concern about how our small enterprises will take advantage, and if not, will be hit by it. No? For the private sector side, we will have the ASEAN Business and Investment Summit in November. The second day of the ABIS, November 13, will be dedicated to the digital and AI discussions. And we are inviting not just from ASEAN, not just from APEC, experts and thought leaders to share their experience and expertise, because we believe, particularly in the digital and AI space, we don't have that luxury of experience and expertise. We may have to find it from across and beyond Southeast Asia, beyond the Asia Pacific. Thank you.
Yes, so while we are on the subject matter of MSMEs and innovation and technology, I actually have a follow-up question for Dr. Tuliao. While large corporations quickly adapted to digital transformation, many MSMEs are still lagging. What targeted interventions can the government provide to ensure smaller businesses are not left behind in the digital shift?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Relampagos, for that question. But I think that should be answered by the representative from DTI, because my answer to that is, I think DTI should gather all these micro, small, and medium enterprises and ask them, what is the gap? Okay, identify the gaps, why they are not adopting to digitalization. Well, they should not ask for subsidy, but there are different uh, um, reasons why they can't adopt. And DTI can identify this, and then DTI, as a government agency, can implement policies and programs and projects to address these gaps. That's my answer.
Thank you, Dr. Tuliao, for volunteering me to also answer the question. I think we should go back to the presentation of Wakamatsu-san, because I think in your presentation, you highlighted the concerns of Philippine businesses when it comes to, I guess, one of their supply chain issues was that there was low AI adoption, and a lot of businesses are still actually paper-based. They issue their manual receipts, their bookkeeping uses a literal book or, programs such as Microsoft Excel. And I think Dr. Tuliao is very right in that I have attended many training sessions. And I'm already talking about how you export, how you pay this fee, how you apply for this form. And then I realized the participants have not yet established their business. They're still going to think about what they want to sell or do. So sometimes there is also that mismatch that government programs are sometimes too advanced. So right now, when it comes to digital transformation, we're actually still helping businesses do transactions online. How to, I think one of the best programs that the DTI has rolled out is the online application for a business name. Previously, you would have to go to DTI physically to apply for it. If you are looking for a national registration, you must come to Manila. If it's a regional application, you must go to the specific region. So having that online assists businesses significantly. But with respect to, transacting or doing business online, taking part in the digital economy, I think it's still more teaching them of the opportunities. MSMEs, we find, Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, they are actually still worried about selling online, not being able to see their customer. They are concerned about getting paid on time, if they will get paid at all. So I think there are efforts right now to just promote the benefits and the opportunities in the digital economy. Thank you.
So I have a couple of questions here from our online participants. So may I call on Ms. Gilda Balan, Programs and Partnership Coordinator of ARCAT Lawanen. I think she's going to go on live. Oh, you're here? Okay, sorry.
So, basically, we work sa grassroots. So, we implement programs and everything. So, like recently, I have this Wi-Fi DX program in far, far away, far, far away Philippines. So, yung nakita namin, what we saw nobody wants to be monitored. All right, for all the programs, everything, nobody wants to undergo MIL, monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So what will happen there, away between who's doing the audit and the organization. And also what we saw then is that the communities are whining about programs, especially yung when from the government, yung mga government programs. So they were like whining about these people are just doing it for compliance, but not actually for them to learn further. Diba? Parang, so of course, the MNCs will, sponsor, and then afterwards they will, what's in it for me, when they see nothing, and then they will just leave. So what will be our role? So of course we want everyone, we're all inclusive. I want to quote Dr. Tulyao, yung sinabi niya na digitalization is inclusive from Telegram to pagers, to text messages, to smartphones, everything. So it's inclusive eh. So everybody can afford. Yun lang is that nobody knows how to use it. Alam lang nila it's to entertain themselves and also just for communication, nothing more, and for the students to cheat. That's why so many SUCs, there's so many cum laudes, Latin honors, and then when you put them on the field, masisigawan mo. Diba? So, that's the reality. So, what are the measures? What are the policies pa lang for? Kasi everyone is functionally illiterate when it comes to digital. Regardless if it's AI, internet usage, and also, diba, parang how are we going to address? That's the chasm eh. So, you from DTI, like my experience with my suppliers, we really have to be, texting at 11 o'clock ng gabi just to talk to my suppliers because that's the only time that the far-flung places have signals. So that's the reality. And then like when you go somewhere south, deep south, they don't want to use these digital apps, yung fintech. They don't want to use fintech because number one, they don't have the infrastructure for it. The community, all the MSMEs are investing to have their own Starlinks. Diba? And you don't know yung security. So they're so scared of, even if, we were like how to avoid fraud, whatever. We do all these things to educate them, but you cannot persuade them because of the scam that's happening. So, what is our, how collectively, how can we actually, make MNCs fund the education to address this functional illiteracy when it comes to technology? So,
if I may interject, Mr. Chair, I think what DTI should do is to present best practices in every industry, okay? Best practices, because they learn from best practices, and from these best practices, if they want to compete, okay, hotel industry is very competitive, and they have digitalized, okay, and you have seen, the the transformation of the industry. So that is the seed there is competition. If they see competition, if they see some of their rivals are improving in terms of their profit, in terms of their revenue, then they will follow. They will imitate, but they should know the best practices. And that is the role of government, to intervene, not to regulate.
on what
Okay.
DTI can do better to support digital transformation and upskilling. Now, our programs, of course, are focused on entrepreneurs. And it is both a mix of working with the private sector, for example, through Go Negosyo, as well as rolling out specific initiatives. I'm pleased to share, ma'am, that there are MNCs that support our programs, but I guess we could partner with them more, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who will be hiring the people who are equipped with these digital skills. There is close government and private sector collaboration. Of course, I'm not able to list the different types of programs that we have, but I think what we can take away is that DTI is now working on a regional level. So while we are national government agencies, our regional offices speak with their LGU counterparts to see what are the skills they need, what is the training, what will work for them to make it more effective and usable to the end user. And we have partnered with local chambers as well, noting that at the end of the day, business will need people to run and grow their businesses. But I think alongside that, the DICT is already working on improving digital infrastructure, expanding. I think earlier Dr. Tuliao did highlight the low level of investment as a percentage to GDP. I think we all want more investment in this area. Highest cost of internet for some of the slowest connections. Those are concerns that the government is aware of, and there are programs in place both through DICT and NTC to address them. Thank you. And in DTI po, we are working to bring investors in this field, whether it be for the hard infrastructure as well as soft. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Enriquez, for that very brave response. So may we have a very brief comment from a member of the audience? Yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Ashleya Limbona, the CEO of the Arket Lawanen. I am also a Go Negosyo mentor. Maybe this time around, itayo naman natin ang bandera ng gobyerno. Currently, I am in partnership with the ITC. As we know, we have the Digital Pinas. Okay? So what we do in Digital Pinas is we have the MSME digitalization workshop. From there, we try to teach all the MSME about the e-commerce. So you know what? Some MSME, because they are the backbone of our economy, and sometimes they are just backyard vendors, but they have their cell phone. So when they do the online selling, when they do the online posting that, hey guys, I have this puto, it costs like this, and that is already e-commerce. I think the very big problem is the ignorance of being not an ignorant. You know what? We have our own cell phone. We have mobile cell phone, but then we fail to recognize that because of that cell phone, we are into e-commerce, right? So in my partnership with the ITC, as we go along from community to another community, last week we go to Parola, so they were so surprised. Nag-e-commerce na pala ako because they are using GCash. They are using the posting that at the same time, it is already the manifestation that they are into digital economy. Maybe what I would want to take part in this very important seminar is there should be a policy a more awareness and orientation because all Filipino vendors, all Filipino MSME are all resilient. Pag pandemic, kaya nilang magbenta. Pag nasa GIDA area sila, geographically isolated, disadvantaged areas, they still can sell. Katulad na ng they can wait, kung kailan malakas ang signal, they can pause. So, with regards to the current situation, I would like to commend our government sectors, the go-negosyo, they are on the right track. Maybe what is needed is a strong policy, a collaboration, that there must be a strong manifestation of the government side and also from the private sector, that there should be somebody that will lead them, somebody who knows how to address. Kasi nga, mahirap din naman if you will just get or hire a full-fledged research, something like that. Somebody must be there kung saan they can immerse in a community. Somebody who can be talking to themselves, na sabi nila, I can feel you people from the downside of the community. So what are the strengths then if we say we are in the APEC? What are the strengths of the ASEAN when we go to improve more digitalization? Everybody knows mahirap ang connectivity natin. So what are your priorities then? Yes, I would want to agree that we are already in the digital economy, but we should not forget what are those things na kulang sa atin. Yun lang po. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. There is a question.
If I may add, sorry. No, so I just listening to the conversations, and I think many of what has been discussed are actually shared concerns across APEC. So Dr. Tuliao earlier mentioned about the idea of best practices. So this is something that has been discussed a lot across APEC in many other topics. So what I'd just like to mention is that this is an opportunity to use APEC funding to have APEC funded projects, because this was built to be able to have shared concerns across the region, to be able to understand learnings from each other, and then from that, have an output that we can scale. So for instance, in that point, outputs that would be like toolkits, books, or for instance, multi-year projects. These are things that I think would be able to deliver long-term benefits, not just for the Philippines, but across the region in APEC.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Calizo, for that thought. There's a question here from one of our Zoom participants, and I would like to address this question to Mr. Wakamatsu. How are ASEAN and APEC and the Philippines, for that matter, moving to protect trade and critical supply chains in a world where geopolitics is back with a vengeance?
Yeah, so thank you very much for the questions. I think there is a short-term strategy and also mid and long-term response strategies. And so at this moment, it's important is to how to accommodate the U.S. Tariff measures for the moment. So it's important to strengthen the rule of origins and how to avoid the transshipment. So these are important. But how to respond to the protectionism and also the geopolitical risk. So these are fundamentally, it's the interaction. So resilience is the interaction between the firm's capabilities and the environment, so institutional business environment. So I think only there is a lot of the things have to be done, and so the business environment have to be improved, like non-tariff barriers and trade facilitation and promoting the free trade. So all of these are important, but ultimately the important is how to strengthen the industrial base of ASEAN. I think ASEAN now is a very good opportunity since there is U.S.-China, tension, and there is a lot of the relocation from the investment to ASEAN countries, and actually last year ASEAN's export to the U.S. increased 30%, despite of imposing the tariff. So ASEAN now demonstrates the amazing resilience. So I think it's very challenging, but at the same time, it's a very good opportunity to ASEAN to move up, the value chain and make ASEAN as kind of the real global supply chain hub. I think it's very good timing opportunity, and I think ASEAN have potential to be more upgraded. But at this moment, if export to U.S. increase, the import from China is increased. It's kind of the situation is that it depends on the inputs from the China, but true resilience have to be more strengthen the base of the ASEAN. So strengthen the local suppliers and more local sourcing and more depending on the other sourcing. It's important. So I think it's ASEAN is now it's good timing. So yeah, we hope ASEAN is more strengthen their industrial capabilities.
If I could add just a quick addition, I think the way ASEAN has approached supply chain resilient is essentially to continue to trade. Like when the US imposed its tariff, ASEAN's response was not, I will also impose tariff, I will limit trade with you. ASEAN's response was, let's talk about it. What is your issue? But at the same time, I will continue to trade with China. I will open markets. Now ASEAN is negotiating with Canada for a free trade agreement. And this consistent ASEAN response to support international trade, I think, is what has worked best. And taking into account the opportunity that the situation presents, through the Philippine chairship, we are now preparing an ASEAN semiconductors roadmap. How do we involve all member states in the supply chain? How do we bring more R&D, not just manufacturing, but R&D as well into the region? How do we get our engineers to take part and benefit from the semiconductor boom brought about by AI development and digital transformation? But more than that, we are looking farther ahead. We are also developing a critical minerals roadmap. We're starting under the Philippine chairship to identify what are the critical minerals in ASEAN, what is the supply available, the level of capability in terms of extraction and manufacturing, because knowing the critical minerals that we have will significantly support the industrialization roadmap of individual member states and the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Enriquez and also Mr. Wakamatsu. I agree with you, Mr. Wakamatsu. Risk does not necessarily bring losses. They also bring opportunities. So I think ASEAN is actually capitalizing on the geopolitical risk that is ongoing on right now.
If I may add,
I have a question
if
here.
I may add, just a quick point on supply chain resilience. So one thing I'd like to highlight is that supply chain resilience, it's not cheap. So it can involve, for instance, having alternative suppliers, managing different contacts, or even extra inventories. And all of this can include administrative costs. So there is something that the government can help here, for instance, to improve visibility. So even just knowing which suppliers are available in the market can be something quite helpful to many of the businesses out there. And then just one more conceptual point on resilience. Resilience implies that you have a baseline. So when something happens like a disruption, the idea is how quick are you to go back to that baseline? But sometimes I'd like to question whether that assumption would be correct, or is it better to look at things more forward-looking? For instance, the idea of future readiness. And here, the idea is not just to look at resilience, but actually where are the growth or growth drivers coming from? One practical way we can do this is to look at risk scanning and monitoring activities. And I think one of what the DTI colleague mentioned is that the ASEAN is looking at things like critical minerals. So this is something that also in APEC has been started to explore. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calizo. So I actually have a question here for Dr. Tuliao, but I'm afraid he's again going to pass it on to DTI. But if I just may, Sir Dr. Tuliao, in your presentation, you mentioned about on breaking market duopoly and market integration. Your presentation highlights that the vertical integration of the globe PLDT duopoly allows them to limit output and maintain high prices. You talked about slow internet connection, yet expensive internet connection. So beyond simply inviting new players, what do you think, sir, are the regulatory mechanisms needed to level the playing field in the telecommunications industry?
Thank you very much.
To pass it on to Ms. Enriquez for now. Yes.
Is that for me or Ms. Enriquez?
It's for you.
Okay. Well, you know, the vertical integration of the dominant firms now is part of the franchise that was given to them, no? So probably it's very difficult to break that, okay? What really is needed, okay, is really invest in fiber optics, the government or a public-private partnership. And that will give access to the newcomers and even to the small and micro enterprises to have access to this lower cost service provided by a government infrastructure. And that was the example for this was Singapore. And that's why everyone in Singapore is digitalized because their ICT infrastructure, a substantial portion of that was financed by the government. So I won't break the duopoly because it's already there, okay? But I will allow newcomers by investing in ICT infrastructure. The government should invest in IT. But the point is, it's easily said than that because it takes trillions of dollars to invest in this, okay? So where will you get the funds for this? I don't think APEC has the fund to finance this. They have the funds. We will borrow, okay? Because this is a good infrastructure project for the government. That's my answer.
This sector, you could potentially be the source of funding for ICT investment, right?
I would want to take a more positive view on this. As I've mentioned, we already come a long way. Where I come from is in Burias Island in Masbate. And in my community, in my barrio right now, we still are not covered by 3G. We have the Starlink and the internet, but and so digital banking transaction is also still a concern, because even if you're online, my Wi-Fi, it would sometimes require you an OTP, which you need to receive via a signal, no? So, but when I was still a student, in that same barrio, the one where there is signal is by the hillside, which is the entrance to the public cemetery. So my mom, when she would reach out to me here, if I receive or read her text at 5 o'clock after my class, I don't expect her to be there na kasi gabi. And takot na rin siya magstay doon, no? Simply put, and also when I happen to have a call with her, ang daming ingay sa background because all of them are converged in that 2x2 meter where they can catch a signal. Pag bagyo, wala, no? So, and cost of calls then was like how many per minute, per second. Now it's free. Now it's unlimited. So we have a lot, we had a long way, no? So I would want to take, to look into that, and our resilience does not mean we are, matiisin, matyaga. Our resilience because we have that diskarte, we have that innovation. So when I mentioned that the best practices are beyond ASEAN, beyond APEC, Ma'am pointed out that their best practice is within the Philippines, within our communities. While the international best practice may be there, we have to provide the context. So please continue your feedback, your reaction, sharing what practice works, because a lot of this, especially when we're talking about digital and tech, it may be a culture thing for Filipinos. Takot because your hard-earned money, you don't want to risk it, no? So you're afraid with technology which is new to you. But as mentioned again, we've gone a long way. Now we have those innovations. Recently, even the cost of money transfer via mobile app was further reduced, if not scrapped, no? So that digital transaction. So there are small wins that we have to bank on, and there are certainly the good in us that we mean well, and we just don't want to stop just because we have all these problems out there. So, but definitely, of course, as the question, the private sector will be stepping in, will be coming in. We would need the government partnership, of course. So we're all here regardless of the situation that we have, and it's good that we have those the partners that we can also rely on.
Thank you, Mr. Chua. So in other words, the private sector would be willing to partner with the government to improve our ICT infrastructure. So I have a question here from an on-site audience, Mr. Mark Calderon from AVN Hospital and Medical Center.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Mark. I internal audit from ASEAN Hospital and Medical Center and a founder and managing director of Lambak Youth for Region in Cagayan Valley. My question is, how can healthcare organization in the region or in the country that ensure that digital transformation initiative threaten yung supply chain resilience while maintaining the regulatory compliance, risk management, and then effective governance po.
So DTI question. Yeah. Sorry,
Could you
Can I read?
Yes, please.
How can healthcare organization in the region or in the country ensure that the digital transformation initiative threaten yung supply chain resilience while maintaining yung effective governance and risk management and regulatory compliance?
Thank you, Mr. Mark, for that question. When we speak of digital transformation, healthcare always comes up as one of the sectors that will stand to benefit because digitalizing, for example, patient data will facilitate the ability of doctors to diagnose cases. Now, there are, of course, concerns on data privacy, which is why I think hospitals, healthcare providers are now working together with the DOH, the NPC, the National Privacy Commission, to see how they will be able to protect that data while utilizing these new technologies to support the provision of healthcare services. When it comes to supply chains, I think the healthcare sector was, of course, one of the biggest hit in past crises. There are certain types of medicines and vaccines that need to be delivered on time, or because if not, then there are huge costs involved because of refrigeration containers and the like. And I think what the FDA and DOH is working with our service providers is getting them on board digital licensing and digital permitting. Now, if there is interest on the part of your company or group, I think we can, of course, link you with the relevant offices to assist in that. But I think what I'd just like to impress is ASEAN is aware that digitalization in the healthcare industry will significantly improve the delivery of services. Admittedly, there are regulations such as data privacy that must be met, and it is important that we meet those privacy requirements when utilizing these skills. It will not be an either-or question. And of course, there are ways naman that can be done. The NPC has several initiatives. For example, they can provide you sample contracts with, let's say, data providers, how to protect the data of your clients and the like. You will not be starting from scratch. Thank you.
Just to quickly add, I think ABAC, Chinese Taipei, APEC Business Advisory Council, Chinese Taipei, has presented in ABAC best practice for healthcare industry in terms of data management. Philippines is actually one of the early beneficiaries of digitalization of healthcare. Our IT BPM sector has grown much from medical transcription to now knowledge services in healthcare. In terms of tapping other partners, well, we have the regional headquarters of the WHO, 3 LRT stations away. So it is our, as I've mentioned, let's look out at those allies and partners that we have. Maybe it's just within our backyard.
Okay. I think it would be good also to look at how countries like Canada and Australia have actually successfully implemented digitalization in the healthcare sector that was meant to reduce workload and patient load in the hospitals. So over-the-counter prescriptions, they don't necessarily have to go to the hospitals or illnesses. They can just, use whatever digital services available for the healthcare sector in those countries. So I think it would be good if the Philippines could learn from the experiences of those countries. Now, I've just been directed by the Secretariat to wrap it up at 4:15, so we have about 5 minutes. So I would like to end by getting the thoughts of our panelists today, including Mr. Wakamatsu, if you may, just on this question, on the role of the Philippines as ASEAN chair, as the Philippines steps into leadership role for its ASEAN chairship, and looking ahead, or whatever is the remaining of that period of the chairship, what does a successful 2026 ASEAN chairship look like for the average Filipino worker or business owner, considering the policy discussions we have had today? So if I may start with Mr. Chua, yes, go around.
As mentioned, this is a make or break for the Philippines. This chairship comes once in 11 years, so let's make the most out of it. And for us, a success indicator is that, I've mentioned earlier, we don't want, and we hope we will not, when we ask sidewalk vendor, a student, that the reckoning for an ASEAN summit, an ASEAN event, especially in November, PICC, that area is close to Salle, is that it's just another traffic, it's just another holiday event for the country. So we hope that in little ways we can tap and take advantage of the event, of the delegation that will be coming over, and of that opportunity that will be presented to us. Some of these opportunities are not served. We have to seize it. We have to look out for it. They are there, and us and ASEAN Business Advisory Council and in Go Negosyo will be more than happy to provide support. And just on the last note, we are not looking at our chairship this year alone. Next year, when we pass it on to Singapore, we will still be the co-chair. So we will still be able to shepherd and push the initiatives that we have. And that's why we call our projects legacy. We don't intend it to be just a project for this year during our chairmanship. So again, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity.
So what does a successful 2026 chairship look like? Well, I hope I'm still alive by then because the work is quite heavy. But on a serious note, of course, it is the successful delivery of the 19 Priority Economic Deliverables. We're already one step closer to this success because we got ASEAN member states to agree to the 19. You know, a lot of those 19 PIDS are new areas that member states were initially allergic to. I mean, what Silwin mentioned on space cooperation, ASEAN was like, why will we discuss space cooperation? How will that contribute to economic development? So having them at least agree to pursue the 19 is already a big success. Now, all that remains is delivering those 19 in November. Now, the work will not stop there. Some of these priorities are multi-year. So what I would like to see, you know, a regular Filipino say is, I'm proud that we hosted ASEAN this year. We're able to push our priorities. It's MSME development, digital transformation. And even if hindi nila maintindihan yung details, just the knowledge that ASEAN supported us in those efforts will already be a huge success. It takes a lot to chair. It takes even more to get ASEAN to agree to things. So even the issuance of a leader statement come November that all member states support will already be a huge success. So please, when the leader statement comes out, please read it. Thank you.
Okay. So ultimately, so today's topics is resilience and digitalization and also sustainability. So I think this should not be viewed as a separate agenda. I think they are mutually reinforcing and pillars of the ASEAN's future's competitiveness. So the challenge is to ensure that the large firms and MSMEs can make this transition together, and so that no part of the supply chain is left behind. So I think PD is, I think, good. So I hope good success. I pray. Yeah. That's conclude my
Dr. Teresa Tuliao, your final thoughts?
Sa akin, ang matagumpay na pagiging tagapangulo ng ASEAN ng Pilipinas ay nakasaad kapag masasabi ng ating Pangulo na ang hinahangad ng ordinaryong Pilipino ay hinahangad ng ating bansa at tinatanggap ng ASEAN. Yun lang.
Sir. And finally, let's hear from Mr. Calizo. Your final thoughts, sir?
Thank you. So I just like to highlight here, echo a bit what has been mentioned, the idea of continuity. Because a lot of the policy changes that we're making today, it won't happen now. It will happen in the next few years, in the next few decades. So for me, a successful ASEAN chairship would be something that has a good story to tell. And that story is something that is open-ended. Why? Because everyone would be able to contribute in building that story. And that story is not the story that we tell now, but rather something that we tell in the next chairship of the Philippines, 10 or 11 years from now. And I'll leave with that question, saying that about a decade from now, what story would I proudly share with my future self? Thank you.
So unfortunately, that's the time we have. We still have a lot of questions, both from the on-site and online participants. These questions will be collected by the Secretariat, and hopefully they can do their best to channel the questions to our panelists. So thank you again for those excellent questions and responses. Clearly, this conversation is just the beginning. We would like to express our deepest gratitude to our distinguished panelists, Mr. Wakamatsu, Ms. Enriquez, Mr. Chua, Dr. Tuliao, and Mr. Calizo for their time and invaluable insights today. So at this point, I would like to turn over now the floor back to Sir Lawrence to do the rest of whatever is left of the program.
Yeah, that's exactly what an intense 3-hour session should look like, no? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Redampagos. So, to our panelists, may I invite you to stay where you are, please? And then I would like to invite the President of the PIDS, Dr. Tuanyo, to join them for a photo shoot.
Tayo na lang.
Josh, Aldrin, pasabi sa girl na nagpipicture, pumunta siya sa gitna, please.
Oh, sorry. There's another photo shoot involving Dr. Tuliao and Mr. Silwin. Intense. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much to our distinguished panelists. Okay. Well, I would like to thank everyone who shared their questions, insights, and reflections during this open forum. Your engagement adds so much depth to the discussion, and it's clear that the exchange of ideas doesn't stop here. With that, we now conclude our Q&A session. Let's give our panelists one more round of applause for an engaging and enriching dialogue. Okay, so we now move to the final portion of our program. We are honored to have with us a distinguished speaker to deliver our closing remarks. So Dr. Philip Arnold Tuanyo will offer the final reflections on today's discussions and share a call to action as we look ahead to what comes next. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, Dr. Philip Arnold Tuanyo.
Lawrence, and thank you everyone for staying until this hour. It has been really a well, maybe for some, a very for all, very fruitful discussion. I think we've engaged our panel very well. I mean, in many of the questions. So thank you very much for staying until this time. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for staying with us until the conclusion of today's symposium. As we bring our discussions to a close, allow me to express my sincere appreciation to all our distinguished speakers and participants for a thoughtful and engaging exchange of ideas. Again, my sincerest thanks to Mr. Isamu Wakamatsu for sharing his valuable perspectives on the study, which was just released yesterday. I understand. Mr. Selwyn Caliso for highlighting APEC's continuing role in advancing regional economic cooperation. Dr. Teresa Tuliao for grounding our discussions on economic analysis. Ms. Denise Checa Enriquez for outlining the Philippines' preparations for the 2026 ASEAN chairship. Mr. Anthony Patrick Chuo for emphasizing the perspectives of the private sector. Dr. Julius, and of course, our moderator this afternoon, Dr. Julius Relampagos, expertly guided. Thank you very much, Dean Julius of Sinimalo, for guiding our discussions. Again, what we emerged in our discussions is that supply chain resilience and regional transformation are no longer separate policy agendas, and they have become mutually reinforcing pillars of economic development. Economies with resilient supply chains increasingly depend on digital technologies to enhance transparency, efficiency, and adaptability, while successful digital transformation relies on reliable production networks, trusted institutions, and seamless regional connectivity. Actually, what the discussions also remind us, that ASEAN and APEC are not competing regional platforms, but are complementary ones. ASEAN provides the institutional foundation for deeper integration within Southeast Asia, while APEC offers a broader Asia-Pacific platform for advancing open trade, investment, innovation, and economic cooperation. Their respective strengths create opportunities for greater policy coherence on issues that matter to all our economies, from digital trade, regulatory interoperability, to resilient supply chains and sustainable growth. For the Philippines, this presents a unique opportunity as chair of ASEAN, as our speakers have emphasized earlier this afternoon. As chair of the ASEAN in 2026, the country is well positioned to help reach ASEAN priorities within broader Asia-Pacific initiatives. We can contribute to promoting policies that strengthen regional production networks, accelerate digital transformation, facilitate trusted cross-border trade, and expand opportunities for MSME to participate more fully in regional value chains. And I guess one of the highlights of our discussion was how the Philippines is able to move, as Cheska emphasized, Ms. Enriquez emphasized, how we actually are able to move this agenda, and so that this be continued to be discussed as an important agenda item also in future discussions. We are reminded that regional integration actually ultimately begins at home. The Philippines' ability to contribute meaningfully to ASEAN APEC will depend on our own investments in digital infrastructure, human capital, logistics, innovation, regulatory quality, and institutional capacity. So to fully benefit from regional integration, we must continue strengthening the domestic foundations of competitiveness and resilience. So this is where institutions like the PASCN come into play. So as you know, and many of you know, this is we are celebrating our the PASCN 30th anniversary this year. This is the Philippine APEC Study Center Network. And the network has an opportunity not only to continue supporting Philippine participation in APEC, but also to broaden its contribution to regional policy discussions on ASEAN, the digital economy, supply chain resilience, energy security, and other emerging challenges confronting the region. So as we know, regional cooperation today requires evidence-based policy making, sustained dialogue, and stronger partnerships, as evidenced in our discussions this afternoon. So PASCN is well placed as a platform for these conversations. So thank you very much for contributing to this afternoon's activity. But before I conclude, allow me to express our sincerest appreciation to the Philippine APEC Study Center Network under the leadership of Dr. Francis Mark Kimba. So Francis, I don't, hindi na nandito ka nakaupo, but so it's there. So thank you, and also to my colleagues also at the PIDS for helping organize this wonderful activity that we have. And also likewise, let me extend our heartfelt thanks to our host, the De La Salle University, to Brother Bernie Oka, who gave the opening remarks earlier, and also to Dr. Lawrence Takoykoy, who also moderated the forum, the PSN representative, and also to a special mention to Dr. Tess Chonko. This is the DLSU member of the Anglo-King Institute for Economic and Business Studies. Is the member of the De La Salle member of PASN. Their support reflects the important role that universities play in fostering informed public dialogue and strengthening regional engagement. As we leave today, I hope that this symposium marks not the end of a conversation, but the beginning of deeper collaboration. The challenges confronting our region, from technological disruption and geopolitical uncertainty, cannot be addressed by governments acting alone. They require sustained cooperation across institutions, sectors, and economy. So let us therefore continue working together so that the Philippines not only participates in shaping the future of ASEAN and the Asia Pacific, but also helps lead it to sound research, informed dialogue, and evidence-based policy making. So maraming salamat sa inyong lahat, and I wish everyone a productive afternoon.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tuanyo. So at this point, we're near the end of the program. We haven't reached the end yet. I remain faithful to the script. I need 3 to 5 minutes more, no? Okay, so once again, thank you to our distinguished presenters and discussants. Your perspectives have truly enriched today's discussions and inspired meaningful reflection as we move forward. Let's give them another round of applause, please. Okay, so we appreciate your attendance today. The speakers' presentations will be available at the PIDS website at www.pids.gov.ph/events. We want to hear your thoughts about today's program. Please help us improve our events by answering our feedback form through the link provided in the Zoom chat box and Facebook comment section for your online participants. Please note that the e-certificate of participation will be sent to your email automatically after submitting the completed feedback form. For our on-site participants, kindly submit your completed feedback forms to the registration area that's outside. Upon submission, you will receive your certificate of participation along with your official event token. So you know what that means, right? There's a necessary condition. No? Okay, so your feedback and recommendations will make our upcoming events better. You may also visit the PIDS booth outside or inside the plenary hall to get copies of PIDS publications free of charge. So keep in touch with us as well. Follow PIDS and DLSU on Facebook, Twitter, or X, and YouTube channels for more updates. And feel free to visit our websites for more information. So we hope to have you again in our future events. Please visit the PIDS webpage to learn the details of our upcoming events and register. I'm not from PIDS, no? I'm just reading the script. Okay, last na. Okay, so as we close today's symposium, it is clear that digital transformation and resilient supply chains are fundamental to sustainable economic growth as the Philippines prepares to complete its ASEAN 2026 chairship. Aligning our priorities with APEC agendas offers a vital opportunity to boost regional cooperation and innovation. Achieving these goals requires strong partnerships across governments, the private sector, academia, and development organizations. So we hope today's insights inspire collaborative action toward a more connected, resilient, and prosperous Asia-Pacific. For our on-site guests, please enjoy some refreshments. I think you already did, no? Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Okay, this has been your host, Lawrence Dacoycoy. Thank you and have a great day ahead.